Before dawn, a large-scale operation led by the DEA simultaneously arrested 51 suspects across Kentucky, Tennessee, and West Virginia. The raid was the result of a months-long investigation targeting a transnational drug network directly linked to Mexico's infamous Sinaloa cartel. The quiet of America's heartland was shattered by the roar of engines and hurried footsteps. Federal agents stormed Louisville, Lexington, and Charleston in synchronized raids, striking multiple targets at once. It was a three-state operation, planned down to the minute. As the sun rose, 51 suspects were in custody. All had ties to the Sinaloa cartel, a hidden network deeply embedded in the United States. Authorities seized 133 firearms, nearly 9,000 counterfeit pills, $78,000 in cash, and dozens of kilograms of synthetic drugs. Inside warehouses and apartments, police found an arsenal of evidence: rifles, fake pills, methamphetamine, cocaine, and fentanyl. Bundles of cash were stacked, ready to be sent back to Mexico. The scale of the evidence revealed a key link in a global drug supply chain. Each location told the same story: coded ledgers, digital payments, and operations run like a legitimate business. No street-level deals, only industrial-scale logistics. The drugs didn't stop at the southern border. They spread into every state, every small town. The DEA's Louisville field office took command, working alongside local police and county prosecutors. They called it a decisive blow to the cartel's infrastructure. The smuggling route stretched from Sinaloa through Tennessee, weaving into small towns already overwhelmed by overdose rates. When the order was given, hundreds of agents moved in at once. They dismantled an entire distribution network hidden behind trucking companies and fake storefronts. The drugs were disguised in shipments, supported by forged paperwork, bypassing road inspections with precision and coordination. Upon reaching Kentucky, the shipments were broken down and handed off to local distributors, people who believed they were working for ordinary suppliers. In truth, they were cogs in a blood-soaked profit chain, where every pill could cost a life in their own community. The investigation began with a shooting in Louisville in February 2024. One man was wounded, but the case led police to a cartel drug stash house. Inside, they discovered weapons, cash, and ledgers written in Spanish, clues that unraveled an entire underground network. 4 suspects were arrested on site, along with 43 firearms, many of them AR-15 rifles. 2 guns were later linked to a 2022 homicide and a 2021 police shootout. The house was just one of many waypoints in the cartel's growing infrastructure across the American interior. The drugs were moved using trap cars, vehicles modified with hidden compartments. The goods flowed north, the cash flowed south. The suspects ranged from rural street dealers to transport coordinators in major cities. Each one was a link in a cross-border supply chain. From June to August 2024, several overnight cocaine shipments moved across state lines, stopping at parking lots before dawn. When they reached Louisville, the loads were divided and distributed to local dealers. 3 transport vehicles were seized, exposing a logistics system as professional as any commercial company. Inside fuel tanks and vehicle panels, officers found plastic-wrapped bundles of cash labeled for return to Mexico. The discovery confirmed a 2-way laundering route. The local case was quickly merged with an expanding federal investigation spanning Tennessee and West Virginia. By early 2025, simultaneous raids struck Lexington, Bowling Green, Charleston, and Knoxville. ICE and ATF units joined forces, targeting warehouses, garages, and residential areas used as temporary transit hubs. What began as a small shooting had now exposed an interstate network. Among the 51 suspects were street dealers, coordinators, and logistics managers. They used legitimate trucking companies as cover. These weren't lone criminals. They were part of a tightly run organization with spreadsheets, route codes, and driver rosters, operating like a global enterprise. Agent Jim Scott said 95% of the region's narcotics came from 2 major cartels, Sinaloa and Jalisco New Generation. That figure highlights the extent of foreign criminal control over the U.S. drug market. What was once small-scale trafficking has become an arm of international crime. The seized evidence showed a rare level of militarization outside the border states. Assault rifles, body armor, modified weapons, and loaded magazines. DEA images revealed walls lined with guns and cash being counted into evidence bags. This was a hidden war inside America. Some weapons had been converted to fully automatic fire, indicating that cartel firepower had penetrated deep into U.S. territory. Each raid told a chapter of the same story: how the Sinaloa cartel adapted to America's geography, infrastructure, and daily life. Rural roads replaced deserts. Pickup trucks replaced boats. Local addicts replaced border buyers. Drugs seeped into communities no one expected. Among the 43 seized firearms, 2 were tied to major homicide cases from previous years. Kentucky, known for its rolling hills and peaceful small towns, has become one of the nation's hardest-hit corridors for addiction. 2.5% of residents aged 12 and older are dependent on opioids, one of the highest rates in the country. From Louisville to Pikeville, the crisis has spread. Addiction rates are climbing, overdoses are rising, and families live in constant fear. For the cartels, this isn't a tragedy. It's a market. Data shows 2,835 overdose deaths in 2022, 1,984 in 2023, and 1,410 in 2024. A decline that doesn't necessarily mean hope. The drop reflects only one thing: the widespread use of naloxone, a drug that can reverse overdoses within seconds. First responders now carry it everywhere, from gas stations to schools. Yet addiction persists. Every life saved means another shipment already on its way. Kentucky is especially vulnerable because the drugs themselves have evolved. Methamphetamine purity now exceeds 95%. Street marijuana is stronger than ever. These are no longer homemade blends. They're industrial products, engineered in Mexican labs to be faster, stronger, and more addictive. Each new formula traps users faster. Now, dealers don't just target addicts. They go after newcomers, students, workers, anyone who thinks one pill will help them study longer or stay awake. The DEA calls this a top priority for both national security and public health. After 51 arrests, Agent Jim Scott stated this was only the first wave. Digital forensics teams are now tracing cryptocurrency transactions and encrypted messages. The goal isn't just to stop couriers, it's to dismantle the invisible web of code and digital money behind them. DEA and DHS analysts agree. Synthetic drugs are spreading faster, cheaper, and stronger than ever. The cartels no longer rely on old smuggling routes. They've adapted to the digital marketplace, using private delivery networks that mimic legitimate logistics systems. What once took months now takes only days. Local post offices and delivery trucks have become unwitting links in this new smuggling chain. Every time authorities block one route, another opens deeper into the heartland. To fight back, the DEA, ICE, and the Department of Justice have formed a joint task force connecting intelligence, finance, and cybersecurity units. The plan is to monitor domestic smuggling routes and cryptocurrency laundering channels in real time. Anti-fraud banking software will be repurposed to trace cartel wallets and exchange platforms. The mission: to use the cartel's own technology against them. These drugs are getting stronger, deadlier, and more accessible than ever. Agents warn, the fight is no longer at the border. The cartels are building secondary routes, moving deep into the interior, through quiet corridors and overlooked highways. These routes blend seamlessly into everyday traffic, moving drugs through unnoticed states. That's how the cartels survive, not by confrontation, but by invisibility. The Kentucky operation stopped 9,000 counterfeit pills and 50 kilograms of narcotics, a real strike against the supply chain. It was a tangible relief. Hospitals reported a slight drop in emergency calls after the bust, though officials warned it was likely temporary. Still, every shipment intercepted means thousands of lives protected. The Sinaloa cartel's network has now been exposed, right in the middle of America. For decades, attention focused only on the border and coastal ports. But this operation proved the same network is controlling routes deep within the mainland. From Louisville to Appalachia, the cartel runs the same system, the same product, and the same strategy as in Texas or California. America's heartland is now on the cartel map. Not just the southwest border. Every road, every small town connected by digital commerce or transport has become a front line. Agents call it the battle for the heart of America. As law enforcement adapts, so do the cartels. They recruit programmers, encryption experts, and data couriers. The new war isn't about borders or walls. It's about controlling the digital supply chain. Technology has become a weapon for both sides. Encrypted apps, fake GPS trackers, and AI-generated profiles all have become part of the cartel's infrastructure. Every innovation forces law enforcement to evolve in turn. For Kentucky, this isn't the end. It's a warning. When addiction meets global crime, the consequences are beyond measure. Drugs no longer stop at the border, and neither do the agents. Every town connected by highway or digital wallet is now a frontline. After what was uncovered in Louisville, the battle for America's heart has officially begun.